What's up, everybody? This is Nick coming at you with today's recap. Just before I jump in, I wanted to just address a comment that was left on my last video, which is a completely, I think, valid comment, something that I've actually looked into a lot myself. Essentially, Joe, who I've actually worked with before, suggested that I drop my runners and just take my whole position off at my first target. And the market recently has certainly felt a lot like that. But I wanted to kind of give you the data behind that just in general and show you the power of tracking to show really the conclusion of what I found there. And this is data up until today, so it doesn't include today's trades. I've got two different types of data here. One is the sort of like the perfect trades, the only the trades that I, after reviewing them, said, yeah, that was legitimate trades, and not including the trades where I said I've made a mistake there. And as you can see that with this, 78.8% of those trades hit my first take profit, which is a really high number. Pretty happy with how high it is. I'm looking forward to achieving something close to this in my actual trading, but this is the potential. And we can see that my take profit 1 P&L is 369.5 on the fully legitimate trades. Whereas our take profit 2, so my second target, is only working 36.3% of the time, which is still pretty high. That's only slightly less than half of the trades that I take. But we can see that our take profit 2 comes to 445.5. And what that essentially means is that because this number is higher than this number, I'm making more money on my runners than I am my initial position. So if I took my whole position off at my take profit 1 on the legitimate trades, I would have made 739 points. We essentially double that. And I actually made 815 points, I think was the number. Yeah. So by having a runner on my legitimate setups, I made 76 points more. Now on my actual trading, because obviously we're not robots, we're going to make some mistakes. 55.6% of my trades hit my first take profit, and I made a total of 90 points on that. And the disparity between these two could be a whole nother video, and something I'm going to work a lot on over the over the next month or so to try and get these closer. And my take profit 2 win percentage was 25%. So again, around about half of the time, just slightly less. And again, I made more. I made 153 points. And what this means, if I'd taken all of my profit at my first target, I'd have made 101.5 points. But I actually have made 243.75, so a total of 62.25. So essentially, this is just the proof that runners are more profitable for me. I've gained around about a third of the potential profit. I've increased my profit by 33%. So yeah, this is just to show that I'm going to stick with runners because there is more edge there. Funnily enough, it would be more profitable to only go to my second target, but from a mental game point of view, I don't think I can really have a 25% win percentage and be all that happy with it. So yeah, so for the moment, I'm going to stick with that. I think it is possible that there are going to be some conditions where it's better to not have runners, but if it's pretty close in terms of EV, it's probably best to stick to one. So thanks, Joe, for commenting. That's just the data behind it that I wanted to share. Moving on to today, and today, more than any day, highlighted why I am not yet at a point where I can count myself a successful day trader. Because today there was a lot of really good opportunity for my strategy, and I didn't execute very well. And it's days like today that really make me excited for the future because I can see how big the potential is, and I can see, when I'm trading well, what I can do. But it also showed a lot of the weaknesses. And the good thing is I can then go away and work on those weaknesses. Tomorrow's the last trading day of the year for me, so I will have a bit of time to kind of reset and figure out how to conquer these weaknesses. But we'll go through everything now. So first trade I took was pretty early for me. I got in at 9:35. We popped off at the open and we ran into the pre-market high area, and I was pretty happy to see this as a double top. I could be certain it was a trade for one reason. I wasn't actually actively at my PC at this point. I was doing a few other things just on the side. And I looked over and I saw this and I was like, oh wow, that's a setup. And that for me, if I get that, oh wow, it's a setup, it just jumps out. It's a pretty good sign normally. So once we put in that double top, we got this really nice flag back to the 50 EMA. I entered short here at 16, 9, 27, 25. I took half the position off for about just under 7, just about 6 points, a bit more than 6 points. I do need to get a little bit better with my first take profits. At the moment, I haven't trusted price all that much because we've been a lot of trades have kind of gone 5 points and then come back to stop me out. So I've been a little bit hesitant to let them run. And unfortunately, this did not hit my second target. And I was very close to taking out, especially given its first trade of the day. I possibly could have done a better job of getting out earlier. We can see that we had around about 9 points of risk on this. And for me, I was targeting the 16900s. When we came down to 16906, I think I actually had a little bit more risk on this at the time. I think I was risking more to here, possibly. When we came down into the 905s, I was like, okay, I'm considering taking it. I could lock in a really good start to the day. It popped, it came down again, and when it came down and it didn't, I moved my order, and I moved it just too slow. I think I moved it to 16906 as it was printing 16906.50, and it never came back down. So stopped out for break even on the rest of that. Bit of a shame, but it would have been a pretty early exit anyway. So not the end of the world. Made a small profit on that one. Market then enters a bit of a weird situation, and this is something I want to try to avoid trading in general. So I'm okay with this. We have this really tight range here. I mean, this is a 30-point range or so, and I find that when the market gets into this, it's not very reliable on the moves. As you can see, it kind of like gave a couple of maybe this is a short, maybe it's long, blah blah blah. So yeah, I didn't get any trades during this period here. We then had a pretty significant sell-off, and we ended up putting a low in down here. And I looked left, and this is essentially how I determine if I've got an edge or not in the market. We came into this low, and I was like, do we have a previous area of support? And I saw this area here from pre-market, and this was tagged multiple times. I mean, this was tagged at 3:30 a.m., 5:40 a.m., 8:30 a.m. And I was like, that's a pretty significant area of previous support. And we've kind of matched it up fairly well. We came into it. We did take it out by 15 points. We came back and then held a higher low. So I decided that we'd found a support area, and therefore I had an edge. We get above the 50 EMA. We flag back, and this is as slam dunk of a setup as I could ever ask for. Honestly, I might do better in life in general trading if I only trade this exact setup where we get a clear move back and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 candles at the flag. I got long here at 16,882.75. I took half off for around about 7 points. And my final target on this, I was a little bit angsty on the exit. I had about a little more than 10 points of risk on it. So my final target should have been more like 915, but we went through 900. We'd struggled to get through 900 a few times. Because we had a bit wider risk than we have done recently, this is already up a decent amount. It took out 16,900, and it would not take out 16,905 very cleanly. And as soon as it began rejecting, I just took it off. It was too early. I think if I was trading my absolute best, and in the future when I'm probably a little bit less caught up on P&L, I maybe would have let this one go because there was no reason really to get it off here, but we took it. And at this point, I was actually up a decent amount. I think I was up about 700 on the day. And then I slipped into some mistakes. And it's frustrating because on the 2 trades that I took that were mistakes here, and I actually took another one later on as a mistake, I had red flags. And one thing I'm really trying to work on is if I have a red flag, just don't take the trade. Like, be prepared to miss a trade. And that should have been super easy to do that today because I was already up like 2R. It's been an okay day so far. Price has become a little bit more volatile, and I could just kind of like sit back and wait for something easy. But I didn't do that. We put in this high here, and I'm happy that this has rejected this area here. But this price action this aggressive selling, this is not something that really is in line with my edge. And we can see that because we sold off, from the high, we sold that much. From this low here, we didn't buy up that much before we pulled back, and this felt like an aggressive buy. So I think the funny thing is, one thing I've been trying to avoid is taking trades like this, where it's just a really quick consolidation, and this actually ended up would have been a solid, a winning trade, just the way it is. But long term, it's definitely better to not be taking these. So I decided that I would wait for a test of the 50 EMA, and the whole time I was going, this doesn't feel right. We've now come into an area of support. It feels like we've already had the move and that I'd be looking for a bit too much. But I decided that I wasn't going to listen to reason, and I was just going to take the trade. And this as a flag is pretty good. And this is the thing. From a flag perspective, this, if I zoom right in here, this here is perfect. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 flags. We have a very clear entry trigger on the break of 89. We've got a very, very clear setup. The difficult thing here is, I would say that from a situation point of view, I don't think we have a clear edge here. And if I'm being honest, this consolidation, it's a little bit like maybe this should actually be more like wait for this to break for momentum. So I took a short here at 16,850, got stopped out pretty quickly. And that one, like, it went straight to my stop, and I was like, that should not have been a trade. So bit of a mistake there. Not particularly happy I took it. It's not the worst trade I've ever taken, but it was a mistake because we're not certain we've got an edge here. And we can see, like, here we just tagged it, and then we didn't really break the 50 EMA by much. We've kind of held it. Boom. Here, same again, and price is kind of slowing down here. As here, it's still quick. And I realized that we'd put in this low that we'd held, and I wanted to therefore take the long, and I drew this trend line in here, and I think this is a legitimate setup. Like, looking back, I think this is absolutely fine. We held a support level. We come up, we get above the 50 EMA, we flag back. Price was a little bit quick, but it's not the end of the world. I would have preferred one more candle, but I got in when we broke back over 16,900. And when I got in, I felt I was in a bit quick, and as a result, I took my first target really early. I got out at 16,906. I probably should have targeted another 6, 7, 8 points. So we've got up to sort of like 1609. That's fine. And then I moved my stop to be below 16,900. Gave it a tiny little bit of wiggle room as well, and got the rest out at 16,898. The next trade I took was another mistake. And what was happening here was I felt like I shouldn't have taken the short here. I felt pretty certain that we were going to get the long. I was a little bit too caught up on how nice of a setup this is. The fact that we're holding, it's going to go. And my thought process had moved to, it's going to go higher, it's going to go higher, it's going to go higher. And we got above the 50 EMA. But then this type of price action here, it's just not good enough. Like, we're not holding the 50 EMA here. We look at this trade here that's A+, it gets above, it flags back to it. We look at this trade, it gets below, it flags back to it. If we look at the best trade that I took yesterday, at the end of towards the end of the day, like, we're clearly below the 50 EMA, and then we put in a very clear flag. Like, this is a very different look and feel to this here, where we haven't got above 50 EMA. And in the moment, I just wasn't really thinking about that. I was just thinking, if we get above this, we're going to rip. So I entered long here at 16,903.75 and got stopped out immediately. And there was quite a bit of frustration in this because I did feel like I shouldn't have taken it. But at the time, I still thought it was a legitimate trade. It just felt wrong. The moment I got in, it felt wrong. So I definitely need to work a bit on this. This is probably the worst trade I've taken for a while in terms of not recognizing that it isn't my setup. So pretty big mistake there. After that, we got probably the easiest trade of the day, other than this one. And this one, part of me is super feels a bit unlucky. The other part is like, I screwed up. So put in a really nice area of support. We get above the 50 EMA, and look how much cleaner this flag is here. It's still not like the best flag in the world because it's breaking back below the 50 EMA a little bit, but this is definitely on par with this flag here and the flag from yesterday. So this is a very clear setup. We put in a low, we're holding a higher low above the 50 EMA. I jumped in long here when we got back over, we got 16, 8, 90, 25. I took half of my position off on this push up here. Again, it was a bit whippy, it was a bit slow, so I only took 5 points on it, being a bit too cautious maybe. And I wrote in my notes that if we could take out 16,900, I will move the stop to this candle here. And we did, but we didn't really break out by enough. We did not get a significant move. So my stop should have been at the low of this candle here, which is the breakout candle of the momentum move. So we get momentum, I can move my stop to here. I don't really feel we've had enough. We've only gone 10 points from my entry. On a breakout style trade, that is not enough to move my stop all that much. I could have moved it to like here, the low of the open of the breakout candle, but moving it to this candle here didn't really make any sense. I just wanted to cut the risk down, and I paid for it because, as you can see, I get stopped out pretty much at the bottom of this candle, one tick above the low before it ripped. And my final target on this would have been, I was in at 90, and I think I was only risking to here if I remember correctly. My final target would have, I'd have been taking it off at 917, 918 for around about a 28 point gain. So getting out early there, moving my stop a bit prematurely, not really being fully focused, cost me about 30 points. And you can see that so far today, I've had one major mistake here that cost me, I think, 22 points. One mistake here that probably wasn't horrible, but it was a mistake that cost me another 20 points. That's already 42 points. And then a mistake here, which was just careless, that's now cost me 30 points. So it's 72 points worth of mistakes right here. And that, for me, is a difference between me being successful or not. Because at this point, I think I'm like break even or slightly green on the day, if I remember correctly. As opposed to being, you know, significantly green on the day. You know, talking $1,400 of profit. Or maybe a little bit less than that. Next trade I take was spot on. So again, we hold this low, we get above the 50, and look at this, a very clean, very clear flag. And if you are watching this, considering trading this strategy, this is what you want to see. It holds a level, it gets above the 50, it flags back. I get long right in here at 16,850, 350. Again, took half off a little bit early, got around about 7 points on this, and the rest I stopped out for break even when we failed to break out. Another good trade. And then I make my final mistake of the day, where I just took a trade too early. And this one was, again, avoidable, possibly wasn't fully focused. We came down and we didn't quite tag the 50 EMA. We're only a tick away. But I was very aware that, you know, I was like, where is the momentum likely to be? I haven't really got many, you know, flags at the moment. I haven't really got many candles to base my entry off of. The reason, by the way, came into this area, held it as support. So I entered, and I just entered a bit too early here. And the reality is, I should have waited for the 50 EMA to be tagged. I need to be a little bit stricter on that. And I jumped in here at, you know, 16,864.50. I knew immediately I was in early. I did have an opportunity to take it off for a scratch or whatever. I didn't, and get stopped out. And that was another, you know, 20 points worth of mistake right there. So we're looking at like 90 something points worth of mistake today, which is nearly $2,000. And then the final trade I took was a good one. This one was a little bit unlucky, if I'm being honest. We now did get a very clear setup. We've got a nice flag that's set up here. We get a good momentum entry. Just put that there. Get a nice momentum entry here on the break of 860. The risk was probably about 10 points or so, give or take. Yeah, about 10 points. We get a pop-up. I take some profit off for around about 7 points. Move my stop to break even, get stopped down. We can see that, like I said, we got a tiny bit unlucky because it only came down a few more points before really pushing higher. But yeah, it is what it is. The one piece of good fortune I had today, though, was you know, my dad came around today for dinner, and he came around a little bit early, being in the UK. He came around about 8 p.m. So as a result, I was aware of this, but was unable to take the short. And this is a setup, and I actually had an order that I was going to get in, but I decided to take it off. This is a completely legitimate trade here. I'd be short at um, 77, I think was the order I would have put in. So I would have been short at 77, and I would have taken a um, you know 8.5 point stop, and then another trade here where I would have got in probably at 78, and again would have taken on this one probably a larger stop actually. So in the end, I probably avoided around about 45 to 50 points of yeah, probably like 45 points of, or 40 points, 40 45 points of losses here. So that was a bit of good fortune, but doesn't really make up for the rest of it. So overall, it meant that today, another pretty dull day. It's actually got rid of my P&L, frustratingly, but I believe it was down around 200. So my live account is now at 51,536.68. So a little bit disappointing from a P&L perspective. I've given back now around about $1,300, I think, from the peak, which isn't horrible given how many mistakes I've made, I guess. And the way I am looking at this is, the past couple of weeks I've made more mistakes than I would like, but I've still traded at a higher accuracy than I ever did when I traded other strategies. If I bring this over real quick, we can see what my performance has been. I grade myself a 1 if I execute spot on, a 0 if I screw up, and I give myself a 0.5 if like my exits were particularly bad. My target is to get this to around about 80%, and it's currently at 53%. The fact it's at 53% and my overall profit is, I think I'm pretty much break even over this period, I think is, one, it shows how strong my edge is, but it also shows that my execution is just about good enough to be break even. It's probably not far from being slightly profitable over these couple of weeks, which is a small good thing. And being brutally honest, in the past, I found that only maybe I was hitting like 30% accuracy, 25% accuracy. So I would say I'm making too many mistakes, but the mistakes are probably smaller than they used to be. And because the edge I'm trading is so large, it's still providing opportunity to stay in the game. So price action hasn't been easy. Today was probably the easiest day for a while because we did have the nice amount of volatility. We had this short period in here where it got tough, where it was a little bit more volatile, but is what it is. We'll keep working. Like I said, tomorrow is the final day that I will trade this year, and hopefully next year we'll start off strong and continue to build this. Just because I don't know if I'll make a video tomorrow. It depends, what I will what I'll do trading wise. Just want to say, like, this year my channel has grown, I think, by 400 or 500 subscribers. I know that most of you aren't watching this video, but I do really appreciate the support I get on here. I really hope that 2024 I can show some decent periods of profitability in my own trading, bring out some more content to help improve on performance. There's one of my videos recently on, or a few months ago, on how to think in probabilities is doing particularly well at the moment, so I can do more videos like that. And yeah, if you do find this content helpful, if you're learning something or feel like it's giving you some sort of entertainment or education or anything, then please let me know in the comment section. Leave a like, really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in hopefully tomorrow's video.